my nuggets are really cold.
No, you're good.
The thing about McDonald's food is like, if it gets too cold, it like turns into something entirely different. No, like, you know that episode of SpongeBob where like, you ever watch SpongeBob? That's a SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Where like some like chain restaurant takes over the Krusty Krab and they have like that gray goo and like spray paint it and it's like garbage. Like what? Like that's how I feel about it. It's like, what'd he say? And he's like looking at just like gray goo. Like I feel like that's what McDonald's food really is. Like you have to like eat it right away. But if you like let it sit out too long, then like its true form like comes. That's how I feel about McDonald's food. What's up? My name is James Ashen. I'm a local producer on the east side of Milwaukee. I was born here. I was raised just outside Milwaukee in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. I'm 22. I've been producing for, I'd say, the last 5 years. And me and my friends have a little group called Lakeside Sound that we mess around with. And we're just chilling at my apartment doing this interview thing. So, yeah. Is there any like questions you had like start off with so we can keep going like
well yeah so like you said you're with a kind of a group, but tell me how that got started.
So when I was at UWM, which is where I met my friend DeAndre, who goes by Mystic Productions, he was like my first mentor when it came to making beats. So me, him, and one of his friends, when we all linked up and we all found out like we all produced together, we all like produced, like we were all making beats, and like once I got to like Mystic's like level after he kind of like coached me on some of the software that he used, and really he just really inspired me to like actually like get serious about beat making. And because we were all like already hanging out all the time and we were like all into the same kind of music, we just kind of messed around one day and we were throwing some names back and forth. And the one that we ended up with was Lakeside Sound, because we are all from the Midwest. We all were born in Milwaukee, like Michigan. My family is originally from Detroit before they moved here, and I have family in Chicago, and like all those cities like are by the Great Lakes. So that's like why Lakeside was such a big part of like why I chose it for the name. And I got into beat making because I originally was like, I still kind of am. I just always wanted to get into rap. Well, I've always been like a huge rap fan, and I was writing for the longest time. I just never liked inconveniencing people and like hassling people to like make beats for me. And I was never that kind of dude who like wanted to do like free YouTube beats or remix other people's beats. So I was like, I'll just make my own. And I took like one class in high school that was a music technology class. And we used like GarageBand, and like through that I discovered I wasn't total ass at making beats, and my music instructor was like, hey, like there's a lot of garbage in this class, but like that's actually half decent. And I was like, that's encouraging to hear. I actually have like the first beat I ever made like saved in my Google Drive. I'm not gonna play it because it's like, what were you thinking?
How often do you go back to that to kind of like see like your progress from like that first one to like where you are now?
Oh man, I'd say like probably like once a year. I honestly forget about it sometimes because my emails are always getting flooded. I have like 5 different email accounts that I use. Like I have some for work, I have some for school, I have the one for music, and I just have some that I've like had since I was in high school. And that's where like some of the older files are saved. I have some of the first verses I've ever written in my Google Drive. Like I have friends who like would write all their verses in notebooks, which I think has like sentimental value. But I never wanted to lose it, so I figured like if I put it in the cloud in my little account, I can always go back and know it's always gonna be there. So that's where like my first beat I saved was. After I finished that class, I just like saved the MP3 there, so it's still there. And that was with GarageBand, but I use FL Studio nowadays because I can't afford Apple products, to be honest. I have an iPhone, but like look at how fucking beat up it is. Like, so like, yeah. So and DeAndre Mystic, he also had FL Studio, so like that was just the easiest thing. And then another one of my friends who I've known since like childhood, he eventually got into EDM, and then he started off with FL Studio, so he also helped me out here and there. But he was always more into like EDM. him and I had a group for a short period of time where I thought I'd maybe like get into making EDM music,
Right.
but I just like I didn't like. No disrespect to EDM producers at all. I just never found like, like I've always really liked my music to kind of have like a human element to it, like soulful, and I've always been into like, soul records and funk records and just like vintage stuff. Whereas EDM, like it takes a lot of talent to produce like a banger, like a festival banger, but like it comes off as like too polished and like too like rigid. I don't know how to describe it. It's like too
robotic and precise and
yeah. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I love trap beats and like, I love like the rattling hi-hats and like the 808s and all of that. But every once in a while, it's like I just need to go back and just like mess around with like, when I'm sample hunting especially. I like to, like my first beat tape I ever made was sampling a bunch of like old school Nintendo music, and I sampled like the Windows 95 startup sound, and I sampled the PlayStation startup sound. It's like they just had like this weird like nostalgic kind of vibe to them, and I think like the Donkey Kong Country series has like some of the best music. You were like, do you know what I'm talking about? The like, did you play any of those games growing up?
I did not. I wasn't too big into video games. They wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us fall into the video game
Who's
trap.
they?
But
Like your folks?
Parents and stuff. But I'm definitely familiar with the series and stuff.
No, my dad being from Detroit, he was very like rigid, like, cause so he grew up in like, I would always ask him like what part of Detroit like he grew up in, like where he went to school,
right?
And he's always like, oh, the movie Eminem 8th Mile. I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, well, I was on the 7th mile. I'm like, oh, probably not very good. So people always wonder, like, because of like where my family is from and like how I am the way that I am and the music that I grew up with, because I feel like my hometown, like hip hop was like not, it was like, if you like it was like very white, and it was very like, like the most like hip hop that kids in my neighborhood would listen to would be like, Kanye or Kid Cudi, and like or Wiz Khalifa.
Well, I was on the radio and everything.
Yeah, so like it was just whatever was like popular, so they would kind of just listen to that, and then like that's what they would like. But I love Kanye, or at least Kanye's like old stuff.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into Kanye right now, but like. He was like one of my bigger influences growing up, especially, and that was before I really like wanted to like actually start like writing rap music. Like Kanye was like one of the first, and then my dad was weird. Like my dad like really liked the Beastie Boys, so like I grew up on the Beastie Boys and Eminem because of my dad, where my dad was from, and my mom really liked Outkast.
So, yeah, Outkast is one of my favorites too. Yeah.
So it's kind of weird because it's like my neighborhood is like very, I guess, traditional, and like it was very disconnected from,
pop culture.
Like it's like it had its own kind of version of pop culture. It didn't really mess with anything like that derived from black culture at all. Just like how the neighborhood was. But because my mom was from Milwaukee, like grew up raised in Milwaukee, my dad grew up raised in Detroit. Then when they had me, it was like all of their influences like were funneled into me, and then the music I was listening to was like just. It was just like different. Like, so I never really connected with like my friends when it came to music wise. It came like to music, but I had a couple friends who eventually like, when we all came to Milwaukee, it was like we all decided like to really start like investing in the art that we liked so much, because in my hometown the arts programs like were kind of underfunded and not like respected as much. And the reason I came to Milwaukee as opposed to going to Madison or La Crosse, which are other schools that I got into, I wanted to come here because I felt like this would be the best place creatively for me.
Right.
So, and I think Milwaukee has like one of the most underrated music scenes right now.
I would agree. One thing I did want to ask you about then, because you talked about how like your dad is from Detroit, and your mom is from Milwaukee. It's like an interesting contrast, because a lot of people would say like our music sounds like as well, like from a hip hop standpoint. So when you think about like how those styles mesh, what kind of comes to mind?
Like, I said, like Milwaukee, we're like in a weird, like, Milwaukee. It's difficult because I feel like Chicago and Detroit have like this huge shadow that they cast in the Midwest. It's like, and over Milwaukee, we kind of like are this blend of like all these different Midwest sounds. And I remember there was a beat battle that was hosted last year, Big Beat MKE, which was at the Wicked Hop And the host was talking about how like there was all the producers that were competing were bringing all different kinds of sounds to the table. Like you would hear things that were like West Coast inspired, trap inspired, boom bap, like East Coast New York, like Chicago, like everything was like being presented, and like Milwaukee just kind of seems like this very like, you know, sometimes it blends, but I think maybe the reason Milwaukee doesn't really have like a whole sound is because of how bad segregation's been in Milwaukee.
Right.
So like you have all these pockets of communities, like the South Side, North Side, East Side, and the East Side is like the side of the city everybody likes to like prop up because this is like where all the universities are and everything. But segregation's been like really bad for like a large chunk of the city's recent history. So I think that's why like these different music scenes kind of like pop up in these communities, but they never like mesh together, which is why like Milwaukee has such a hard time like finding its like one sound, and why it's like easier for other, you know, cities and stuff to like influence us, because we're not together. Like we don't mesh well together. Like whenever somebody like, you know, has their group and then they kind of like start getting some clout and they start like making moves, it's like the city, I feel like, breeds a mentality where it's like you have to get your own, and once you have yours, like just stick with you and your team and don't like mess with anybody else because you can't trust other people. And I feel like that's how the scene has been for a long time. But I feel like with competitions like this, and you're bringing some of like Milwaukee's best producers to like showcase like
what's actually here,
because it's like, you know, I feel like producers, you know, are not like in-house producers, because like in-house producers like have their cliques and they only produce for like their rappers, but freelance guys like me and a lot of the guys competing, you know, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I feel like we understand each other more, and we're willing to collaborate more, because like we see all these different rappers from all these different sides of the city coming to us for different kinds of beats.
Yeah.
So we see like the ins and outs. Like we always have our finger on the pulse of the scene, because we're making the sounds that are popping right now. And you know, I'm hoping that at some point, like when people see like all these different producers from all over the city, like being in the same competition, in the same room, talking, collaborating, like it'll make people more comfortable to like, you know, possibly like reach out and just like, you know, stop being so like closed-minded and like with their own cliques. Because I never wanted Lakeside Sound to be like a clique. I wanted it to like be a group that could just keep growing, and hopefully at some point we just find the right chemistry and we make a new wave, and then we just like share it with the rest of the city.
Right.
Because it's like Lakeside Sound, like we all live on the side, we all live on the lake. Like, we're all here. You know, I wanted to make something unique, but I definitely won't be able to do it by myself. And that was the whole point, is like create a platform for artists to like try to push the boundaries a bit more and get more people to like work with each other. Like I have artists I've worked with on the south side, north side, a lot of artists here on the east side. Like I feel like there's tons of talent like all over the city, no matter where you go. Like there's not one area that has better artists. Like everyone has something to offer.
Right.
And if we all work together, I think it'd be really cool to see what could come out of that, you know.
Who would you say is kind of like your favorite artist to work with out of the bunch that you have worked with?
So, have you guys heard of Marcus Carson by any chance?
Not.
Marcus Carson, Jay Young.
That sounds familiar.
Jay Young. So those two guys are guys I've worked with like recently. Marcus Carson released a mixtape last year that I had production credits on, and he's releasing another mixtape this month that I have production credits on. Jay Young is a friend of mine who I've been working with. He released a mixtape last year. I had 2 tracks on that as well. And, you know, not only have I gotten a chance to like know these guys and see them like grow as artists, but I always see them improve, and the fact that like they're getting more recognition and they're doing more shows together. And like 2 guys who were just 2 separate clients of mine came together. They just also dropped a joint project together, which is really cool. They come off to me as guys who are willing to like just sit down, work on a project, and just like pump out something that's memorable. And I've seen them grow a ton as artists, and I might be biased because like I know them as friends as well. But they're honestly like super dope. And like I said, Marcus has a tape coming out this month, but I have production credits on it, so I'm excited to see where that goes. And they are 2 super dope artists. One guy I've met in person and had a chance to speak to briefly after one of his shows is Classic. Classic, honestly, like, I see guys like him, and I just like question the system sometimes. Like,
Right.
how is this dude not blown yet?
Because he doesn't make popular music. He makes he makes art. It's not.
You know, he's got so many different like vibes, and he's like, you know, you see him perform, and as dope as he is on stage, like he's super chill in person. Like I honestly like, you know, watching him create his songs live, and I asked him if he had any recordings out, and he's like, well, I have like an album's worth of music that I've like written, but I don't have any of it recorded. Like, I perform it at every show, but because it's not like set in stone like a recording, it's like slightly different every time I perform it, is what he said. And I thought that was like really cool. So it's like, it's no longer just like releasing music that's just gonna blow like on SoundCloud or any streaming platform. It like just becomes like an experience. Like, you have to be there to listen to him.
Right.
And you would like, honestly, like, if you have a chance to like go see him, like, you definitely need to go see him. He's like on this whole other shit. Like, his live, like, I got a chance to see him in like a small setting at last year's Beat Battle with Big MKE, Big Beat MKE. So I like, it was very personal, and it was a very small space. And I was just like right there, and like seeing him do all this stuff live was like, it was pretty incredible. So I feel pretty blessed to have met him and talked to him.
That's what's up.
So yeah, so him, my guys, Jay Young, Marcus, I like them a lot. But I'm excited to meet all the other producers and anyone else who shows up for the battle next month, because that's the reason why I got into this. I mean, obviously it's a competition, but I'm also there to like meet people. So
yeah, and with that being said, I know you said a lot about how you feel like the scene could do better in coming together as far as collaborating and creating its own sound. But what do you think that you personally bring as far as a sound or style to the Milwaukee music scene?
I was like on Facebook recently, I got into like this argument about like type beats. And I feel like what separates me from some other producers, I've met a lot of producers who do the same thing, which is kind of where I got the idea from, is like, I don't bring artists in to like work by the hour and like just crank out some generic beat or just like have entire conversations through email. Like, I like to get to know the artist first, get a vibe for them, and then like we sit down and we come up with something that, you know, they give me their ideas, and I'm kind of like the instrument through which I can help them see their vision, like all the way through. And, you know, so every once in a while, like I'll produce some stuff on my own, and an artist will just like really mess with it and wanna buy it off of me. But my favorite thing to do is just like have a session where it's like a true collaboration. Like, I'm just making sure every drum kick and every snare and every melody that is coming out of that session is something that the artist like really wants. And I'm willing to work with like all different kinds of artists. I've done R&B records, I've done boom bap, I've done trap. I feel like what makes me just as an individual like a great producer is that I'm pretty versatile, because I've worked with so many different artists. Like, I don't find like one lane, and some would see that as like a weakness, because some people just like would be like, no, just focus on one thing and then just like get really good at that.
Well, yeah, that's like the concept, is to like make that one sound and kind of try to ride that one.
Yeah,
sound,
but I'm not
ride
trying to be here for just one wave.
One dimensional, yeah, right.
I'm trying to like I said, my end goal is to like have my own like studio where I can bring people in and like, you know, somehow find a way to give back to the community.
Right.
Like, you know, I'm trying to get on my chance, like find a way to like make a platform and then like
use that
see
to help
through
others.
see through that other people like have a chance to at least explore their talents. Like, one of the best jobs I ever did was like this it was like this government grant that paid for it. It was in River West, and there was this writing camp that these kids were a part of, and a friend of mine invited me to come help him with this session. And essentially it was like one day of the week for 2 weeks we came in, and for this writing camp the kids had to write a song. So we helped them write a song, and then we also made a beat each time we made a new song, and then we recorded it with the kids. And we got to see like, you know, grade schoolers to high schoolers like all bring something to this one track. And we ended up making 2 different tracks for the 2 different camps for the 2 separate weeks that we had. And it was like the coolest thing ever because like you have these kids who like, you know, you can see like what their influences are, like the kind of messages they want to say, and like you see like a crazy amount of talent. And some of these kids who are like, you know, 14, 15 years old, and you were helping them like see through that they have a gift, whether it's like in their lyrics or their voice, like something that they can offer. And you know, the tracks would not have been the same if you would have, you know, taken any of those kids out. Like they all brought something that was really cool, and it was kids from all over the city who are part of this camp. And you know, it wasn't like a ton of money, but I just had a great time doing it because it was a chance to like work with the youth and make music, which are like 2 of my favorite things.
Of course.
So
that being said, then what was kind of some advice you would give like a younger artist trying to get started, or a younger artist kind of having doubts about the process and everything?
You got to be really patient, and like you're gonna have a lot of people who are going to doubt you like every step of the way, like, and you're gonna feel like because those are the people you surround yourself with that you're not doing anything right. And I'm not saying to surround yourself with like yes folk, like people who will just like support you no matter what you do. Have some friends who support you and are willing to criticize you and be real with you. And it's just gonna take a lot of time. Like as much time as I've spent trying to work on my craft, like I still have like so much more stuff to do. And I feel like, you know, people get discouraged really fast. Like they'll see someone do something like musically or just any kind of creative talent, and they just attribute it to some like God-given talent that person has always just had. But that person they've just spent countless hours just like honing that craft. And for you to do anything, like you just need to take the time to like really sit down and just like put effort into it. Like it's not gonna come overnight. But the first thing I ever wanted to teach myself that I thought was different was beatboxing. And that was like the first big music thing that I got into. I was like doing talent shows in my hometown, and I was doing a lot of open mics around the city as a beatboxer. And that was one thing that was like no one in my town had any idea like how I was doing it, but all I was doing was going online and watching different videos,
right,
and just teaching myself. And eventually, like everybody was just like, it's like, oh, I don't know how you do that. Like there must be some crazy talent. And it's just like, no, I just decided one day I'm gonna practice a little bit each day. And like 3 months later, I was in a talent show just for beatboxing. And I was only like 3 months time, but I did it every single day for 3 months.
Right.
So you don't know, like, and some people, sure, you might learn faster than others. You might learn at a different pace, but that's fine. Like,
yeah, but then at the end of the day, that statement kind of remains the same, that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard kind of thing.
Right. It's like some people have, like, their favorite artists who are super talented, but they, like, never release music, and they just, like, you know, like...
Kid Cudi.
It's like, you know... it's difficult for people to follow you when you're just so like inconsistent, and that's definitely something I need to do as well. Taking my own advice and just being consistent. Like,
oh, for sure.
Nothing's gonna be perfect at first. You're gonna make some trash.
That isn't gonna be perfect ever.
You're gonna make some trash, and you know what? Share your trash with the world, because one man's trash is another man's treasure.
That's very true.
And you're gonna find a lot of stuff that you make years down the line, you're not going to want to listen to it. I already don't like my first beat tape. I think it's really amateurish, but I have friends who still rock with it to this day. But also at the same time, the more you do something, like, the better you get. Like, with this weather lately, like, I've had to do a lot of parallel parking. I've gotten pretty fucking good at parallel parking, but I wouldn't have gotten better at parallel parking if I hadn't been practicing. So it's like, it's just... take the time to do it. If you really want to do something, you'll find the time to do it. And just be consistent. Like, you're going to release some garbage, you know, and you're going to get criticized. Not everyone's going to rock with your stuff, but through all of that, just think of it as like, you know, like a filter. You know, like, you're going to put a lot of, like, of something into, like, a container, and as it flows through, as time goes on, it's going to get more and more filtered, and then you're going to have yourself Well, this is empty now, so it doesn't work for the metaphor. But a nice cold glass of water that everyone's gonna like take a sip from, you know, and everyone's gonna want to be a part of that oasis you built, you know.
Got you.
So that might sound kind of corny, but I don't care. It's like just
right on.
Just keep doing it, like keep going with the flow, and eventually it'll get filtered out to the point where it's like you finally found like what your voice is and like where your lane is, you know. I'm still doing that. It's not gonna be easy. It's way easier to talk about it than to actually do it, but it's so worth it. Like, honestly, the first time I made a record, do you guys know Troy Tyler by chance?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Shout out Troy.
Yeah. No,
That's the homie.
I've made records with Troy, and Troy is super talented. Him and I made a record together with another rapper. He hasn't been on the scene in a while, but he went by Black Lamb. Troy Tyler, Black Lamb, and myself, we all made a record together, and they were always like doing shows and like making all these moves, and I was just like a dude who made beats. Like I didn't really go on tours. Like I'm like not like a DJ, you know. Like I have equipment that I use to do all that stuff, but I wasn't really out here. And like hearing my beats being played at these shows for them to perform, and everybody getting like super hyped, like every like trial that I've been through. Like it all like seems so like worth it all of a sudden. Just hearing the final product being played live and everyone's dancing and having a good time, like
yeah, I just felt that, man.
Yeah, yeah. And also, don't take yourself too seriously. It's my last. So you got to put in time, be consistent, but also don't take yourself too seriously because no one likes a preachy person. Like just have fun. That's like the end of the day. Like just have fun with it. If you're not having fun, then like what's the point? You know. Obviously, if you're trying to spread a positive message and you really care about it and you want everyone else to care about it, like show everybody how fun it is to participate in the art that you make, and it'll be way easier for people to get on board. So that would be my advice.
All right, and then what are you kind of looking forward to then with the beat battle?
Just kind of showcasing my stuff. Like I have a lot of stuff that I haven't released, but also at the same time, like I don't know, I'm just really excited to meet other producers. It's like I haven't played my music live for like this big of an audience before, I don't think. Because I'm inviting a ton of friends out. And I think it's being super fun. I just want to have fun. Like I'm going to be goofy as hell, I think, when I go into my battle. And I hope to have some like really friendly conversations with them. And got a chance to like hear like some of their influences and how they feel like the battle's going to go. So, I know I'm amongst like-minded people.
Right.
You know, obviously I haven't talked with everybody. Because most of the dudes on this roster, like, I didn't really know who they were. Like, I hadn't heard of them. But, you know, if they're in this competition, I'm assuming, like, they've got some stuff that I think is worth listening to.
Of course.
So, I'm just excited to meet people. Like, I'm a social dude. I think I'm pretty laid back. Yeah, I just want to have fun because that's why I made beats. That's why I got into rap because I love wordplay, storytelling, socializing, you know, just good vibes all around. And I think the music that I make reflects that pretty well.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
All right, so then kind of like the last thing, just go ahead and give your
Sure.
shout outs and state your like social media and everything as well.
So I don't really fucks with Twitter like that. I have one, but don't follow it because I don't have anything on there. But I have an Instagram that I put everything on. So James Ashen, JamesAshen. No periods or underscores or X's or any of that bullshit. I got the OG name. Very easy to find. I try to put all my newest releases on there, but also if you fuck with memes, that's the place to go. Follow me. I like to, pull out my newest releases on there, and I'm thinking that this coming season, the next couple months, I'm going to have a lot of content coming out. So if you mess with, also, I'm getting off track here. My SoundCloud, I got some stuff on SoundCloud. Also, James Ashen. It should be pretty easy to find. Should be the first one to come up. Have a couple of my beat tapes on there. I put all my production credits on there, so if you're interested to see any of the artists that I've talked about, I put all their mixtapes and everything. I reposted all the tracks that I've worked on. So I'm super excited to share all that with you guys. So IG and SoundCloud, and that's about it.
Right. Any special shout outs you want to give?
You guys met my roommate earlier. He doesn't really have anything on social media. I think he's just chill as fuck. His name is Isaiah. Him and I, we've been talking about making an album for a while. He's a super talented singer. He won't tell you that though. He's got like crazy chops, like vocal wise. He's like really into funk music. So he's pretty dope. Again, my guy, Jay Young, JayYung. SoundCloud, Facebook. He's a funny dude, super conscious rap, with a kind of a mix of, you know, he spits pretty well. He's got a nice deep voice. I think he's really dope. Marcus Carson, MarquesCarson. He's got a tape coming out. Follow him on Instagram. I think his Instagram is just his name, but he should come up. He's got a tape coming out next month. Definitely check that out. I got production credits on Jay Young and Marcus Carson's last project and upcoming project. And James Ashen signing off. Hope to see everybody at the competition March 16th at Company Brewing. It's going to be dope. Bring your friends, bring your lady friends, bring everybody. I don't think they have dogs, so don't bring your dog. 21 plus, $10 at the door. I think I got everything for all that. Show up, because if you support local artists, and you're always talking about, oh, support your local artists on Facebook, but then you don't go to this, but you spend $300 fucking dollars in Coachella, then fucking eat ass. Go to this thing and support your local artists. That's all I gotta say.